So, we're finished with the tables. So let's have a look at graphs. And if there are a few things you have to remember about this course, then this would be one of them. If you're creating a graph, you have the responsibility to maintain a visual correspondence to the quantity you display. Now, let's have a look at this graph and try to think what's wrong with it, because there's a lot wrong with it. I will give you some time for that. Now, what we see in this graph is sales are skyrocketing. There is a very steep increase of the sales. But if we actually look at the data and if we represent it in the rightful way, then this would be the message. Sales is flat. Now, and what kind of tricks did they do in this chart? And I think the first one is very obvious. Their y-axis doesn't start with a 0. And also if you look at the scale of it, then it's really a very small interval of data that they're showing. What they also did is they decreased the aspect ratio. They made it a square graph, and because they did that, they overstated the amount of increase you see. Also, they used a green line, and in Western culture, green is good. So that's another thing that supports the message that sales is skyrocketing. And also the black color is helping with that. So we have to be aware that if we create a graph, we very easily can manipulate the reader what they're going to see. And we have some kind of responsibility to stay close to the truth. So that's important when you create your graphs. Another one that I would like you to remember is stay away from 3D. And if you would ask me, because this is very nice and it's very easy to create in Excel with a few mouse clicks, you have this very nice graph. But if I'm going to ask you now, what is the value in the first quarter of the South region, then I would be very interested in your answer. Because it's very difficult, we cannot see it, it's hidden behind the other ones. So 3D, if you present it on a two-dimensional area, that's never a good idea. So what's wrong with this? Completely nothing. You should always use two-dimensional graphs. Now, this is a little bit boring, because if you go into Excel and if you look at all the chart types, there are many of them. But what I'm going to tell you is actually there are only 3 basic graphs that you can use to express almost any message about the data you want to show. And the first one is a scatter plot, and that's very, very useful if you want to highlight a relation between 2 variables. The other one is the good old plain line chart. Very useful if you want to show a trend or a time series. And the third one is the bar or the column chart. If it's horizontal, we call it a bar chart. If it's vertical, we call it a column chart. And they are very useful if you want to compare different categories with each other. So these are the basic graph types. One was missing, and that's the pie chart. And we did some research on it, and it's one of the most frequently used charts. But I would really advise, I would almost say urge you not to use the pie chart anymore. And I would try to explain why. First of all, humans have a difficulty in estimating how big an area is. So my question would be, if you look at circle 1 and circle 2, how much larger is the area of circle 2? Now, so what's the problem with pie charts? Here we see a very classic example of a pie chart. We have different companies with different values. And if I ask you what is the part of company C, you probably would immediately say 25%. So what is wrong with pie charts? It's very clear, isn't it? Well, if I would rephrase the question a little bit and say, could you tell me what are the values for company E or F? And now it's getting really complicated, because it's very difficult for us to say, well, that's maybe 1% or 2% or 6%. Actually, I don't know, I have no clue. But as Excel to the rescue, we can add some data labels. So now at least we can say that company F is 1% and company E is 7%. But what I actually have to do in my brain is I have to look at the legend, I have to look at the color, I have to go back to the chart, look at the color, look up the value, and then I see, okay, company F has 1%. That's not really easy for your reader. And it's important that it is easy for your reader, because you want to get your message through. So it should be as easy as possible for your reader. Now, we could help that by remove the legend and add some more labels. But really, if we do all this, then why not just put it in a table? And if you really want to use a graph, and I would agree on that, I would even advise that, what's wrong with a simple bar chart? I can rank very nicely the companies, also visually. So I see immediately what is the largest company, I see what is the smallest company. For humans, it's very difficult to make an estimate of an area, but to compare lengths between two lines, that's something we are very good at. So that's really helpful. And then there's still one argument that people throw at me if I say don't use the pie chart. They say yes, but the pie chart will help me to see everything related to the whole. Well, that's still possible, because we could change this chart and putting the relative part next to the label, and make a sum at the bottom to see if everything ties up to 100%. And now I have a part to a whole information in my graph without using a pie chart, and making it very easy for the reader to read this information and to get the message. So that are some remarks about the structure of the charts. But as we did with the tables, we will also focus on some of the best practices in charts in the next video.